Hi, I'm Adam Piddleon, and this is my story. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, to a Reformed Jewish family. I was one of those kids that was troubled, violent, angry, got mixed up in drugs and alcohol at a very young age. And so um, I was bar mitzvahed at 13 years old. But it wasn't an easy journey. I was thrown out of every Hebrew school for pranking on the rabbis and fighting with other students, and there was no rabbi that would teach me. I had to learn by cassette tape and memorization. Shortly after my bar mitzvah at 13 years old, God spoke to me and said, "Adam, you know of me, but you don't know me." And that began a quest for me to discover who this God was that I knew of but didn't know. About a year or two later, I found myself wanting to go to temple, but in the 1970s, the services in my neighborhood were in Hebrew, which I didn't understand. So I found myself going to a local Catholic church. And again, at that time, the services were in Latin, which I didn't understand. So that kind of ended my pursuit over the next few years. Shortly after I graduated high school and moved out, there was a church in my new neighborhood, and I went and visited, and they had English services. And so I would just sit there week in, week out, and just stare at this 10-foot crucifix. One day a priest came up to me and asked me if everything was okay. He noticed that I was there regularly. And I said, "No, Father, I'm good. I just find peace being here." He said, "If you ever want to talk, my office is down the hall." So about 6 months or a year later, I found myself wanting to speak with him, and I told him I was Jewish and thought I needed to become Catholic. He said it wasn't that easy, and that I needed to go to catechism classes and make confirmation, have Holy Communion, and be baptized. Well, too much work for me. Didn't ever pursued it, just stopped me in my tracks. Fast forward, enlisted in the Army, and during basic training on Sundays, you can get out of extra detail by going to church. So I decided to go to church. Quite obvious. And that's where I got my first Bible. And during the next 5.5 years, as a U.S. Army Ranger, I read it cover to cover, front to back, back to front. But it made no sense to me. I obviously wasn't attending church either. I was living a very aggressive lifestyle in the special ops community. And so when I got out, I took residence in Florida. And one of the first jobs I had, there was a man that was witnessing to me and evangelizing. And I didn't know what that was, but he would invite me to men's Bible studies and to church, to Easter and Christmas, all kinds of events. And one day I accepted his invitation to the men's Bible study. It was February 8th, 2001. And when I arrived, the first time I ever heard praise and worship music, it moved me. It was so inspiring. And then a great message that we studied. And right after that, they put the chairs together in a circle, and they were praying for one another. And I was just observing. And that's when I heard God speak a second time. And he said, "Adam, all your life you wanted to be a man's man, when all I required was you to be God's man." At that moment, I knew it was God. I broke down crying, tears running down my face, snot coming out of my nose. I was convulsing. And all I can do was say, "Jesus, please forgive me. Take charge of my life and change me." And he did. And for the past 22 years, I've been at Calvary Chapel, involved in ministry, discipling men, and advancing his kingdom. God has taken a broken man, a self-centered man, and made him into a godly man. And he can do it for you. I hope this encourages someone out there.